In episode 6, we finally find out what happened between Ellie and Joel that fractured their relationship. It really all starts out after they arrived at Jackson. Ellie was 15. Joel celebrated her birthday by getting a cake from Seth and surprising her with her own guitar that he basically built from scratch. Fast forward a year later, and Joel surprised her with a museum trip that he found. It was a science museum. They had dinosaurs, they had all kinds of exhibits, and the big exhibit that year was space travel. And because they were the only ones to visit that museum, Ellie was able to actually put on the suit. It was pretty cool. Life was pretty good with the two until Ellie turned 17. That's when she started acting out a bit, and I use that term very loosely. I think she was just kind of being a normal teenager, but Joel wasn't prepared for it. He came home early to surprise her with a cake, but what he found was Ellie fooling around with a girl, smoking weed, and Ellie had just gotten a fresh tattoo. It was a lot for Joel to take in. I mean, up until this point, Joel thought that Ellie was straight. So the fact that she was fooling around with a girl, that was pretty jarring for him. But then it was the rest of it. The tattoo, the weed, it was a lot, and it caused a pretty big fight. And at that point, Ellie had kind of had enough. She took exception to the fact that Joel referred to her fooling around with a girl as experimentation when Ellie said, no, it's not. And Ellie decided she needed her own space, and that space would be in the garage. So that night, she started trying to drag her mattress out into the pouring rain to sleep in the garage, but Joel stopped her and said, no, you can't do this. This is ridiculous. It's pitch black, it's raining out, and you may not like my rules, but this is my house. And Ellie had to remind him, no, it's not. You don't actually own anything. They gave you this house. They gave us this house. Look, I'd like to tell you I was sorry for what I did today, but I'm not. And that's when Joel decided to agree that maybe it is a good thing for Ellie to have her own space. He told her, just give me a few days to clean up the garage and I'll have it all prepared for you. They seemed to patch things up right then and there, and Joel even wanted to see her tattoo, which was a decorative moth. It had kind of become Ellie's thing. The tattoo, of course, was to cover up the burn mark that she made that was supposed to cover up the bite mark. Joel did ask her, what's up with the moths exactly? And Ellie told him that she read about it in a book on dreams and it just seemed symbolic. And he thought that it was because moths bring about change and growth. But when he talked to Gail about it, she said, no. That would be butterflies. No, moths, if you believe in that stuff, that signals death. Fast forward 2 years later, and Ellie was 19 years old at this point. Her relationship with Joel was still pretty solid, but she was starting to question exactly what happened in Salt Lake City. So much so that she actually wrote down a handful of questions that she was going to ask Joel just so she could understand it better, understand what happened. But as she was practicing giving Joel this speech, Joel knocked on the door and told her some good news. Now that she was 19, she was finally getting what she wanted. She was going out on patrol. It was going to start out on a pretty boring patrol. In fact, it was the safest patrol, and it was going to be with Joel. It wasn't exactly the action that Ellie wanted, but hey, she was finally on patrol. The action, however, came a little bit later when they got a radio call that a group of them were bogged down by a bunch of infected and they needed backup, and Joel and Ellie were the closest to the group. Initially, Joel told Ellie, go back to Jackson, but Ellie said, no, Joel, I'm not your daughter right now. I'm your partner, and we have to go save them. Joel thought about it. It made a lot of sense, and the two headed to see what was going on with this infected and the group. And unfortunately, the group was attacked pretty good by the infected, and only one of them was left. And that one person was Eugene. Eugene had just freshly been bitten, and he knew that it meant he was going to die. But his one request was to go back to Jackson, stand outside of the gate, and talk to his wife one last time. Say goodbye. And Joel didn't want him to. It wasn't like he didn't feel for the guy, but rules are rules, and this guy was just bit. They had no idea how long it was going to be before he turned. Ellie, however, being fresh to this whole thing, decided to give Eugene a little bit of a test. She had him stick out his hand and count to 10. And when he was able to do it, Ellie proclaimed, Joel, he's got time. We can do this. Just tie him up. Let's take him back to Jackson so he could say goodbye to his wife. And Joel relented. He told Ellie, all right, go get the horses. Bring them down the trail. I'll start walking with him. We'll meet up with you. Right before she left, though, she stopped and looked at Joel. They didn't have to exchange words. It was pretty clear what Ellie wanted. She wanted reassurance that Joel wasn't going to kill Eugene, and Joel said, "I promise." But he broke that promise. He ended up leading Eugene to a clearing and telling him, "Eugene, I can't let you go back, man. If you have anything to say to your wife, I'll relay the message for you. But your life's going to have to end here." Eugene begged him. He begged to just see Gail one last time, but Joel wasn't about to break the rules. When Ellie finally did arrive with the horses a little bit later, and she saw what happened, she was mortified. She knew that Joel had just lied to her, and she knew that Joel had killed Eugene. And all Joel could say for himself was, "I'm sorry." On the way back to Jackson, dragging Eugene's body behind the horse, Joel tried to plead his case to Ellie, saying how he had no choice, but Ellie didn't believe him. She knew that Joel had a choice, and he made that choice. But after Joel had betrayed her, she decided to return the favor once they got back to Jackson. They called for Gail to see what happened to her husband, and Joel lied to her. He told Gail that Eugene was bit. He said how much he loved his wife, how much he was going to miss her, and he was the one who decided to take his own life. And while Gail was crying in Joel's arms, Ellie spoke up and said, "No, that's not true. He's lying to you. He killed him. He shot him right in the head. Eugene had time. He could have been back here. He could have been saying goodbye, but Joel took that from you." To which Gail slapped Joel in the face, and their relationship was never the same. That was 9 months before the New Year's Eve ball. The ball where Joel had shoved Seth to the ground for saying some inappropriate things about Ellie and Dina, and Ellie essentially telling Joel to go home because he was embarrassing himself. But when Ellie got home that night, they decided to have a conversation about what happened. It started out with Ellie telling him, "I can take care of Seth. I didn't need that from you." And then it kind of got into the relationship with Dina and whether or not Dina was Ellie's girlfriend now, and Ellie just scoffed at that, saying, "No, it was a kiss, nothing more." But then Ellie got real with him. She turned to him and said, "You lied to me. You looked me in the eyes and you lied, and it was the same face that you gave me when we were leaving Salt Lake City. So I'm going to ask you one last time, what happened in Salt Lake City? And if you lie to me, we're done forever." And through a series of questions, Joel came clean. It wasn't easy for him, but Ellie learned the truth, that there were no other immune people, that Joel killed them all, and that, yes, they were able to create a cure, but it would have resulted in Ellie dying, and Ellie was okay with that. She screamed at Joel, "Then my life would have had a purpose, but you took that from me." I mean, she was legitimately pissed, and she called Joel selfish for doing what he did. But Joel didn't back down. He said, "Look, I love you. And if I had to redo that day in Salt Lake City, I would do it again. I would kill all of them, and I would save you. And hopefully one day you understand. Hopefully one day you have a kid of your own, and you'll understand exactly why I did what I did. And I understand I'm going to live with the consequences because you're going to turn away from me. But I don't regret it. Not at all." And it seemed like Ellie was about to turn away from him. I mean, she was angry at what he did. Angry about the fact that she was lied to about it. But she didn't turn away from him. She told Joel, "I don't know if I can ever forgive you for what you did, but I'm willing to try." So when Ellie had told Jesse that they had patched things up the night before when Ellie and Jesse went out on that patrol, she wasn't lying. They really did patch things up. And when Joel was murdered by Abby, Ellie and Joel were in a really good place. Or at least a much better place than they were 24 hours prior.
Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry, it'll be up in a day or two.